different amounts. So the states pay according to their capacity to pay. And it definitely leaves room for healthy competition once there's a minimum. And the point is, I said concurrent. I didn't say residual list.
Which is
because if it is residual list, then it is exclusively for the states. On the concurrent list, the federal government can legislate on it, the National Assembly, and then the states can legislate on it. It's only where there's a conflict, then of course, that of the federal government.
But isn't the key question now is the national minimum?
Yes.
That's the bone of contention.
The national minimum here is 27,000. They are saying it should go up to 30,000.
Yes, states 27, federal workers 30.
No, all 27. Federal government then says we will pay 3,000. That is at the election of the federal
But does the National Council of States have that jurisdiction to bring up new figures to the separate figures?
That's another
even
issue.
after a tripartite committee has come up with a single figure, 30,000 there. Is this morally right?
Okay, that's another issue we should look at. First of all, is it under the purview of the National Council of States? The National Council of State is one of the bodies created by the Constitution, the third schedule, part 1, in addition to the much vexed the Conduct Bureau is one of those bodies. And their primary functions, number one, their function is advisory. That's number one. Then number two, the issues that have been allocated to them is population, census, population, award of national honors, prerogative of mercy, INEC. So what they did yesterday, it's a national commission, that's their main issue. The appointment of the National Judicial Commission, those are the functions of the Council of State. However, there is an overriding general provision that says that they are also to advise the president on other issues and matters that the president may direct. So under that omnibus provisions, the president may then say, advise me also on any other issue.
So the president could have chosen not to bring it to the National Council of State?
Absolutely. But those issues, those matters that I have stipulated are those that have been made provisions for in the Constitution. But any other matter that the president brings to the attention of the Council of State.
Does this in any way dwarf the capacity, or should I say the involvement of the technical committee that was constituted by the president to also look at this same matter?
Well, you see, the technical committee is technical. They have done their job. They look at all the issues, just as the gentleman said. They will look at capacity. They will look at welfare. They look at all the issues, the ILO conventions, the laws, the minimum wage, and things like that. They will look at those matters properly.
But wait, the technical committee, is it not the tripartite?
No, not the tripartite.
The technical, the one the president said he was going to set up.
it to, yes.
Headed by Bismarck.
I'm not sure we've had a feedback from that committee. I'm not sure that there's been a feedback from that committee. But now it's been gone. And again, you know, I think the president had also committed himself to a January 23rd date, which is today. So I think, and then you see, I think, this is my own personal opinion, that by taking it to the Council of State, it has a toga or gives an impression of acceptability to the elder statesmen of the country, so that it makes it that the elder statesmen have shown that it is a satisfactory figure. So if you have a body that comprises the president, the vice president, former CJs of the Federation, governors, the Attorney General, and they say, oh, this figure is satisfactory. Because I want us to make a distinction here of the word labor. Approve. Okay, you know, approve could be I endorse. Yeah. Without my endorsement, it cannot go forward. Yeah. Or approve, I'm happy with it. I can live with it.
Let's look at
technically, I don't think this body, the National Council of State, can give approval in that sense, that without our approval, it can't go forward. But it's saying that we are satisfied with it, that that figure is a fair figure. That's what I will interpret it.
Let's look at some economic angles to this issue.
Sorry, please?
Let's look at some economic angles to
Yes.
the issue. On the one hand, how many months ago did the president bail out some states?
Absolutely.
You know, so is it still, can we still confidently say that all states can afford 27,000 or 30,000 naira minimum wage?
It's going to be difficult to be able to say the states can afford to pay it. Because at 18, there was a lot of defaults by so many states. But for the bailout funds, some states will still be owing. And I believe some states are even still owing now. In my own view, we're looking at matters separately, one by one. We need a total review of the entire thing, including the workforce. Whether labor likes it or not, we need to be honest with ourselves.
Are you talking about rationalizing?
Whatever name you want to call it.
Should NEC investigate?
You have to look at those things.
Should NEC, through the EFCC, investigate those Paris funds bailout that were given to states? Because we're getting reports that sometimes that maybe some state governors did not use it for the actual purpose it was meant to be.
Well, I'm sure EFCC has its mandate. They would know whether they need to investigate this or not.
Yeah,
Comrade, of those things.
You know, in consideration of all that has been said now, in terms of the capacity of the states to pay and what the elder statesmen have decided, what's Labour going to be doing now?
Well, I listened carefully to the lawyer, and when you talk about this matter, we have discussed severally, but we can't get tired of talking about it. Capacity to pay. States that have no capacity to pay 18,000, I can assure you, if you make it 5,000, they will not have the capacity to pay. Those states, we all know, have records of gross mismanagement of fund, reckless spending, which is a subject for another day, and we'll go into all that as the battle now will rage, and will show that some governors who claim they are unable to pay have over 1,000 personal assistants, some 2,000 personal assistants who they pay between 50 to 100 to 150,000. And these people have no desk and do no job. So those are matters that in the next few weeks will be clearly out there. Some even charter aircrafts and spend about 5 billion within 1 to 2 years. All this will come up. So when people mount this ability to pay, it comes clear. And as for the meeting of the Council of States and other statesmen and all those, it brings to the fore the nature and the character of the Nigerian political class. And it is a clarion call for the Nigerian citizens to wake up and look at the face of the ruling class and the ruling elite and know that the divide has been announced, that this is a battle between the haves and have-nots. And take, for example, you can see in the State Council of State meeting, you can see people who in the past few days were enemies and never talked to each other. They were able to come and smile, and after 2 hours was able to agree to fight against the Nigerian people. That tells the Nigerian people the character of the ruling elite. So the people will just gear up to take their destiny into their hands.
Let me ask you this one then. Clearly, you have NLC has an issue with the disparity between what the state is paying or willing to pay and what the federal government has volunteered to pay, which is up to 30,000 naira. But this won't be the first time there is such a disparity. If you remember, during the Adams Oshiomhole-led NLC, the federal government was legislated to pay 7,500 naira and states were to pay 5,500 naira minimum wage. So how is this any different? How is the disparity here different?
The disparity here, and that's the point we want everybody to understand, is that a figure, when it was 5,500 you mentioned, the agreed figure was 5,500. What we are talking about is legislating on the agreed figure. And I am happy the lawyer accepted that the American state has a minimum wage. What the argument here is for, and what we are fighting for, is that that process, the sanctity of that process must be protected. That agreement must be protected. That a minimum wage, that minimum will not be an award.
Yeah, comrade, we're winding down now. Pardon me to body. We're winding down. So I need to get from you quickly now. If Labour goes ahead and protests this particular outcome now, of what importance is it going to be? Because look, it may suggest that for that to change, the NCS may have to reconvene and take a look at that again. Or is Labour going to focus on the National Assembly to see how they can perhaps do what you want?
Thank you, Chamberlain. You see, this process is clear. There is no need for another meeting. For example, we are not traveling this road for the first time. Remember, I made the point. The Council of State have never changed the agreed figures. We had the Bergora Committee, which was the last minimum wage. And what they submitted was what the council approved. And I'm happy the lawyer agreed that this council must not meet for this to be transmitted to the National Assembly. And that is why the process of negotiation, even the thing about the technical committee, all these issues were the issues being discussed. Remember, the governors were represented by a governor. All right,
Uche, I need to bring it back here before we go. We have less than a minute. What do you suggest moving forward now? If Labour protest, I don't know, will the Council of State meet again, or do they take this to the National Assembly, and what can possibly come out of that if the National Assembly looks into it?
Well, if you ask me, the issue of the National Council of State, really, I don't think it's anything to worry about. It's not strictly their purview, as I've said. The matter is now 27,000, and it has been transmitted to, or it's going to be transmitted to the National Assembly. The issue that I think we can consider now is, does the National Assembly have the power to increase the amount? Because they are the ones going to make the legislation.
What do you think?
Well, as it is, if we go about with what the National Assembly has been doing with budget and things like that, they normally say, oh, we have the powers to increase and do this and
if
that.
The president withdraws assent?
Exactly. So those are the issues.
It's a stalemate.
It will be a stalemate. If National Assembly says, okay, we're going to be populistic and make it 20, 30,000 or even more, and then it's sent to the president, and the president withholds assent, will the National Assembly be able to get the two-thirds majority to make it into law? So those, I think, are the issues that are going to be playing out.
And we might as well rightly caption it. Who blinks first? So
that's it.
there you go.
It's like a Trump and the and the Congress.
So there you go. Mr. Dakwa Yom is the CEO of Center for Law and Business, and we also had Comrade Uche Ekwe, who is the head of International Relations and Liaison to the National Assembly of the NLC. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning. All right, so we'll go to break and come back and look at a different matter. Maybe they could mention this. It depends. Stay with us.